Today, what we can learn from Arthur Grand's white only job posting listing.
Welcome to the WorkHARDAholic Show with your host, the original WorkHARDaholic, Shirley Crawford, author, speaker, and small business consultant for over 20 years, helping you to work hard, play harder, and business better.
Hello, and welcome back to the WorkHARDaholic Show. I am Shirley Crawford, your host, the original WorkHARDaholic, and today it's all about HR. It's all about HR, employees, how you're handling, how you're managing it. And we're starting off with a conversation about Arthur Grand. It's an IT staffing company right here in Virginia where I'm located, and you might not have ever heard of it. All right. Well, today you will, and you're hearing about it for reasons that they don't want you to hear about it. So as it happens, Arthur Grand was recently sued by the Department of Justice because of a job posting that listed it was only looking for whites only, American citizens who were within a radius of Dallas, Texas. So here's the thing. They were fined by the DOJ, and there's a lot we can learn from the situation, but there's a lot more to the story as well. So not only did they say that the DOJ said that they violated the executive order, because here's the thing. Arthur Grand is a federal contractor. All right. And so they have certain requirements of what they're supposed to have with regards to employees, and that they provide IT for all kinds of federal contractors, for their federal contracts. Got it with me? Okay. And here's the thing. There are so many regulations beyond you as a normal, regular employer and who you can hire and not hire when you ever involve federal money, grant money, state money, etc. So all the bells and whistles are required of Arthur Grand. And in this situation, which turned very ugly very quickly, let me see if I can share part of the job posting itself. So the verbiage was only born U.S. citizens, in parentheses, white, who are local within 60 miles from Dallas, Texas, and in parentheses, don't share with candidates. Needless to say, all of this went out into the job posting. And Arthur Grand was penalized a civil penalty of $7,500, which, and the scope of things really isn't that bad, along with $31,000. So they had to pay $1,000 to the 31 people who complained about this job posting. But here's what gets interesting. Arthur Grand is a minority-owned and federally designated as a disadvantaged business. I believe the stats were like 80% of its population are minorities in some way, shape, or form. So in the end, although they paid the money, they say they're paying it to expedite the process and that they are neither, I quote, neither admits nor denies any violation. And so when they spoke to the CEO of the company, he says he vehemently denies any guilt or wrongdoing and that the job posting was made by, what do you say? A rogue employee. So here's the thing that this all takes me to, right? So first of all, when they looked at the violations, the penalties. Now, the first one, they're saying, hey, we didn't really post that. That's not our mindset here. It's not our culture. We're actually totally the opposite. It was some rogue employee. There was even some statement that it was some person who was working from them out of India. Don't know. But the bottom line is it happened. And so somewhere along the lines, there were checks and balances to say what could be posted, who could post it, how these things operate. So there's a whole statement about the structure of how they're running the company, who sees what and how it happens. But in addition to that, because once the Fed gets involved, they don't just stop at what it is they came in to look for. They keep looking. All right. And so while they were looking, the Labor Department found some other violations. And these are the ones that I really want you to tune into. They said the company, especially as a federal contractor, didn't have records tracking demographic characteristics of job applicants. I can say it. Let's try that one more time. They did not have demographic characteristics of job applicants because they have to show as a federal contractor that they are not violating any of the standard laws regarding employment and that there's a good population of diverse individuals who are applying for the job. All right. That includes gender, race, or ethnicity. And the company didn't post the basic EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Rights which always has to be posted in conspicuous places. So any of you out there, if you have one employee, you have to have these job posters. And I'm sure you're getting these things in the mail saying, hey, we have your compliant posters, buy them. And crazily enough, they cost like $200 and it's really just a gigantic poster. But if you have an employee, you're obligated to have that. And they didn't even have that. And so the Department of Labor Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, OFCCP, they're always alphabets. They're saying they're committed to holding federal contractors accountable for outrageous discriminatory practices like this advertisement. Companies like Arthur Grant that accept federal contracts cannot have a whites-only hiring practice. Now, keep in mind, Arthur Grant says that it wasn't them. Like for those of you who remember the good old song from Shaggy, they said it wasn't them, right? And that it was this rogue employee. But that takes us to a whole other conversation. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're going to take a quick break. I want to come back and talk about how you can make sure that you're compliant, that this never happens to you, that you don't get known for this kind of stuff. All right? So quick commercial break. We'll be right back and stay tuned because I don't ever want this to be you. See you in just a moment.
Ladies, are you looking to move your office from your kitchen table to a space of your own? Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Are you looking for co-working and community? Well, then come join us at the Women's Business Center, RVA, located at 1510 Willow Lawn Drive, Suite 100, directly across the street from the Kroger at Willow Lawn. Visit us on the web at wbcrva.com or on social media at WBCRVA. When you're ready for more than just office space, come join the WBCRVA family.
Listen, attorney Alex Taylor is a soldier in a suit, defending anyone with criminal charges, DUIs, and more. Call Alex Taylor, your soldier in a suit, at 804-500-5000.
I'm Alex Taylor. Don't face your criminal charges alone. Put a former prosecutor with 30 years of experience on your side. Let me show you how a soldier fights for your freedom.
Call 804-500-5000 or go to alextaylorlaw.com.
Life can be a struggle. Find hope, healing, and answers at the Abundant Life Church of Christ, a place to encounter God through uplifting worship, singing, prayer, the preach word, and fellowship. One step can change your life. One step could shift your destiny. There has never been a better time to take that step than now. Come be our guest every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Abundant Life Church of Christ, a place where you belong.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Okay, so we're continuing this conversation. If you've been with us since the beginning of the show, we were talking about this whites. Oh, I have to say it slowly because my brain doesn't really wrap around it too well. But there's a whites-only job posting that came from Arthur Grant, an IT company here in Virginia, for a job posting that they have a federal contract to provide IT employees. So it's a staffing company, and they have a position that's available in Dallas, Texas. And so they were posting this position, and in the description, well, we just finished talking about it. So now, beyond the fact this post exists and they're denying it, that, they say it was a rogue employee. Beyond that, I want to talk to you all about two things. One, I want to talk to you about how you properly set up for having an employee. And then I want to talk about how do you fire an employee, right? Because I'm willing to bet this is part of what's going on over there. There's some bad HR happening. If they are to be believed, then there's some bad HR that's happening. And so I don't want this to be you all. That's why we do these things. We do this show, we share this information so that when we open up the newspaper or get all of our news from Google or whoever else, it's not about you in a negative light. So I want to share 8 HR must-haves for your business to succeed. And these come from the Grasshopper Academy, right? And so when you've been doing it for a while, it seems obvious, but here's the thing. When you've been doing it for a while, you often overlook some basic things. You just assume that everyone's on the same page, and you can't. When you're creating the culture, the environment for your business, you have to make sure that everyone's on the same page, the same understanding, because they are now your brand with feet and hands, okay? So first things first, When you bring someone on, you want to make sure that you have the right employee paperwork. And it doesn't matter have your business is big or small, you have to have certain documentation on hand. So the first thing is the government requires the I-9 information, right? That's for immigration. That's all they want. They want to make sure that the person working for you can legally do so, right? Then you're going to have a copy of their resume or the application, the payroll information, W-4s, if you are providing any type of medical, disability, medical exam information. And keeping in mind, there's some of that information you can't ask for until after they're employees. You cannot ask about their health. You can't ask, do they have kids? You can't ask personal information. You can't ask a woman that she thinks she wants to have a baby anytime in the near future. Like, these things will once again get you sued. So don't bother with that. Okay. And then you're going to want to create the files for each employee with I-9 medical file and the general employment file. I actually have a tendency of putting it in one file and separating, but sometimes there's a different amount of time that you're required to have certain information. But depending on how many employees you have, you can figure out if you want to make it 3 separate files or one big gigantic file, but you want to make sure you have it. If the IRS comes in and asks you a question about an employee, you need to be able to go to a cabinet, pull it out, and hand it over. Or have digital copies. I still believe in both, digital and physical, because too many things can happen. The second thing that you want to have is the employee handbook. So, especially when you're thinking about, you're preparing for the end from the beginning. If you're thinking that you might potentially have to fire an employee, they should know from the beginning what the expectation was. So they should know the rules that you have about office supplies and whatever else the case may be, and they should sign it. That way, it's basically a legal contract between you and the employee. So if something happens, then you can always reference back to the document that already exists. Okay. And you want to make sure that it includes requirements of employment, maternity, paternity leave, benefits, termination, and anything else that you think is pertinent to your particular business, including standards of behavior, anti-discrimination policies, going back to what we were just talking about, compensation benefits, and for a lot of you, it includes an NDA, that non-disclosure agreement, right? And for some of you, you might even be trying to have a non-compete agreement. Those can go both ways these days, but you'll see what works for you. Number 3, which Arthur Grant could have benefited from, the required posters from the DOL, from the Department of Labor for the U.S. You're supposed to have these posters about job safety, wage requirements. Even for your remote employees, you're supposed to make sure that they have access to the poster. I don't know if you want to make it your background in your Zoom meetings. I don't know. You can send it to them, but you need to document that they saw it. All right, that's the other thing. And so maybe you'll share it by email, and then in your handbook, have them sign off, even if it's an electronic digital signature, to show that they received the information. All right. We live in a day and age where you have to cover yourself. You have to document. Okay. And then you want to make sure you're doing the right hiring process. So that's the 4th thing. So just as I said, I had an interview eons ago. I haven't been an employee for anyone in a long time, but eons ago, I had an interview, and he asked me what kind of car did I drive, and so I politely informed him that he's not allowed to ask that question. And so I did not get that job, by the way. And so for some of you that I could have pursued legally. I could have pursued after that because they'd asked me bad questions during the interview, and we would assume that there was some negative connotation that was left on me because I questioned him. But I didn't do all that. I made sure he knew, and then I contacted their HR department to say, hey, you might want to, because I worked in HR eons ago as well. So I contacted the HR department and said, hey, you might want to talk to so-and-so. They're asking inappropriate questions in the meeting, in the interviews, and I don't want you all to get sued. They're a great organization. I don't want bad things to happen to you. All right. So you want to make sure that it's clear your hiring practices and that you're utilizing. Something that is an amazing tool that most people don't use correctly are performance reviews. I am a firm believer that when hiring someone, the first thing they should be doing is looking over the job requirements. For those of you who are hiring people and don't have a list of job requirements, shame on you. Fix that. Because how are you evaluating them? Like out of thin air, today I'm measuring you on this, tomorrow I'm measuring you on that. So when they're trying to sue you for, because you fired them and they want to still receive that, workers' comp, then you have you don't have a leg to stand on. So you want to make sure that it's clear cut the expectations of the employee. And then you want to make sure you're doing excellent performance reviews. So this is not just annual. It's not just at the end of the year. It's about time to say that they're an A, B, C, or a D employee, or however you're ranking them or rating them. Different companies do it differently. I don't want that to be the moment you're just starting to do it. A good manager, a good business owner is checking in with their employees, not hovering over them, not micromanaging, but you should have an idea of what they're working on, how they're working on it. Does it fit their skill set? What's their personality type? Like, how do these things all work together? How are they doing on their tangible, quantifiable goals that you've given them? Have they set tangible, quantifiable goals? Are they ridiculous? Are they not enough? And so you should know that already and have checked in. And then you leave them to do the work. Okay? You leave them to do the work, but you should have given them a really great outline. And then when it's time for the performance reviews, it's no surprise. They should already know that they are exceeding, that they are below average, that they are on the verge of being fired. There should never be guesswork. I always feel like you are a poor manager if your employee has to guess that they're about to be fired. And on the other end, if they're about to be promoted and they had no idea that they were doing the work that merited that, you're also a poor manager. These are just the facts, okay? And then you want to make sure you're having a proper amount of development and training. And so I normally, when I bring someone on, I have a checklist of here are the things I need you to do. I will ask, do you know these things? Are you capable? Are you already exceeding with these? Where are you in these? And I like for it to be a really honest conversation because, hey, we just hired you. We're not going to fire you today. We're going to go through the effort to actually do the things necessary to bring you on board. Because you might know how to do that for another company, but do you know how to do it here? And so I'm really big on training. So I will train. And then we will check off. You will check off and say, I know how. But here's the thing on my end. When you check off and say, you know how, I feel that I have the right to fire you immediately if you fail to accomplish that task that you said you knew how to do. Because I can look at this paper and see your check, your initials, and therefore I feel that you're now accountable for being able to do what you said that you were taught to do. So a lot of people think they can just throw you in, sink or swim, but I'm really big about that development and training, especially because every company has its own culture and way of doing things, right? I can think about processes that I've done in several different companies, and each one was different in how that company wanted to accomplish it. So you have to make sure to train your people. And then one of my absolute favorites is you have to have some type of employee recognition. You should be honoring the work of your people. They should know when they've done well. They should know how they are doing things, and it can be amazingly varied in what it entails. See, I get excited about employee recognition, right? I have gotten like thousands of dollars in bonus. I've gotten like a little furry thing that sticks to your computer that everyone can walk around and see, oh, she was recognized. It could be a line in your newsletter. It could be an employee Hall of Fame board. It could be a multiplicity of things. But you should honor people beyond just their paycheck because they are what makes the difference in your business. Now, when you get to the point where they're representing you in a way that is reprehensible, when they are doing things that are going to bring down the value of the company, or even if you're downsizing, selling, whatever the case may be, and you have to terminate an employee, let's talk about how you should do that right after this commercial break.
At Richmond Dentistry for Children, Dr. Randy Adams and Dr. Brandon Allen are crazy about your kids and their teeth.
With compassionate care, our professional staff treats your kids like they were our own.
Call us today to make an appointment at 804-780-2888 or check us out on the web at richmonddentistryforchildren.com. Let Richmond Dentistry for Children take care of your kids' teeth today for a healthy tomorrow.
Are you only identified as mommy, as the employee, as the worker bee? You know what? It's time for you to be identified as you. There is more to you than your function for others. Come discover it at the Diva Mastermind Retreat. That stands for doing it very authoritatively. It's time for you to find your voice, find your place, and make your mark. Join us October 7th through 11th this year in 2024 in Outer Banks, North Carolina, where we'll help you with mastermind moments. We'll help you with seminars, sessions, and the camaraderie of other boss ladies just like you. Don't forget to join us for the fun. Visit Diva Mastermind at groovepages.com to get your ticket today. Only 3 spots left. We'll see you then.
Got a question about your small business? Trying to figure out what to do to start a business? Are you a C-suite executive trying to figure out some leadership tools and resources that you need? Well, we've got answers for you. Submit your questions, concerns, thoughts to admin@WorkHARDaholics.com. That's WorkHARDaholics.com. And you might hear your question, or at least the answer to it, on our next episode. In honor of the Women's Business Center RVA 5-year anniversary, the countdown is on. Ladies, it's time for the WBC RVA Toolkit. You don't want to miss it. It means every Thursday you co-work not for free, but it's included. So that's co-working every Thursday. Each month there's one seminar and one group coaching. So all day Thursday you can come hang out here at the Women's Business Center RVA, and it's just $25 a month. Tell them about it, Joanne.
And a couple of the topics that we will be talking about, discussing and reviewing and going through are starting a business the right way, because we do want to start off the right way. We're also going to talk about a business model canvas and how your company creates value for its customers. Also goal setting, which is very important. Finances, even developing your pitch, also social media distribution and content, and much, much more. So we are excited about seeing you there. So you can register today at WBCRVA.com.
Alrighty then. Welcome back, and thank you to all of you who make this show possible. Haven't said that in a while. Alrighty now. So today we've talked about Arthur Grand and the suit with the Department of Justice. We've talked about how to bring an employee on. Now I want to talk about one that I know is really hard for a lot of employers, right? How to properly fire an employee so that they don't burn your building down and give away all your secrets and all this stuff. So the first thing is there's lots of conversation and there are lots of studies that are done on when to fire an employee, right? And so because a lot of times it's done at the end of the day or very close to the end of the day. And one of the biggest complaints that employees have is that, why did you have me work an entire day to fire me at the end, right? And so I want to start off with some of the theories on when to fire and what time, what day and what time. And so you'll figure out for you which one is the best one. First of all, I repeat, if you're a good manager, it shouldn't be a surprise. You should not be blindsiding people. Even if you're downsizing, there's a decrease, you're being bought out, it still shouldn't be but so much of a surprise to someone that they're being fired. Okay, that's part of the anger, is because it's a shock, it's a surprise. They've been building into the company and doing all these great things. And then it's like, oh, what happened? Some managers, employers do this because they want you to keep giving your all until they're ready to let you go. From a business perspective, I understand, but that only leads to these TikTok, YouTube videos, Instagram posts that are now going viral of people saying they quit or what happened, or they're recording like being fired and sharing it with the world. And I don't think that's how you want to be known. So the first thing is the two dates and times that I find to actually be the most beneficial from what my own experience and what I've seen be the most popular are either going to be, ironically enough, Wednesdays, like normally before lunch. All right. So maybe the hour before lunch, or however long the conversation goes, make sure that it's ending like around lunchtime. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Or Fridays end of day, like Fridays 3:00, or Fridays like right when you get back from lunch, something along that. So they have the afternoon. So here are the reasons for those particular times. A bunch of studies say that if you do it on Wednesdays, then they have a couple of days to adjust to the idea. because you're going to leave the office and, all things are going to happen. You're trying to do it at a time where it is the quietest in your office. Right? So actually, if you're a company that everyone comes in at 1, you might want to have them come in early and do it, right? So the reason right before lunch is because that means they can come out of the meeting with you and immediately go and pack up their office and it not be disruptive. Like everyone should be staring at them and trying to figure out what's going on. It's a quiet time in the office. This is also why a lot of managers like to do it at the end of the day, because that means when they're going to go pack up, there's really not a lot of people around. Because if your company is like a lot of companies, people get to their end of their day and they're gone. So that means there's a lot, it's more quiet, it's not that much of an uproar, especially if you have an outraged employee who might yell or scream or curse or throw things through a window. Then it gives an opportunity for it not to be as widely witnessed as it could be. So that's why the Wednesdays before lunch. That's also why the Friday close the business day, which is terrible. It feels horrible, I'm absolutely sure. But business-wise, it cuts down on the chaos and the confusion when it's done at that time period. And also allows them the dignity of packing up their own stuff. I have seen people be escorted from the office of the person telling they're fired, and I mean escorted like by security, to their desk as if they are a prisoner breaking out of jail and go and get their items. I think that is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. It's unnecessarily humiliating. And I know the reasons why, but I think we need to recognize the personal side of this as well, because your other employees are seeing this too. And so they're like, oh, they just think of us as what? Inmate 12 JK? I don't know, right? So think of all these things, especially if you're saying you have this culture and you're saying you're all about family and then is that how you treat your family? If so, I can imagine how your Thanksgiving goes. Okay? So outside of that, I think it's really important that I have a list of things I want to share with you, but on your termination checklist, you're going to fire someone in advance. It generally doesn't happen spur of the moment, unless it was emotional and not a business decision. As a business decision, you know it's happening. All right. So with that in mind, you know that they have access to company equipment. You know they have access to, in this case, we talk about Arthur Grant, they might have access to your HR postings. They might have access to your social media. You definitely don't want that. They may have access to your financial reporting. There is a lot of damage that can be done, especially in this digital age. So you should be like, literally, rather than embarrass the person, while you and a representative from HR are talking to them, someone else is going in and disconnecting them from all of those accounts. So it's swift, it can happen very quickly, but it doesn't have to be embarrassing. Okay? All right. So the things you want to make sure you're putting in place outside of, we talked about the date and time, some other things you want to make sure that you're doing before you fire and up to firing. One, you want to make sure you're offering opportunities for improvement. You're providing warnings. Some of you managers out there are a little too soft and you don't like confrontation. Then you really shouldn't be a manager. Or you need to have the support. Maybe you should have a direct relationship, an HR person who is directly connected with you. If you're too small to have HR, then you need to have someone else. You definitely don't want to fire someone all by yourself. You just don't want to. Okay? But if you're being a good manager, like I said, there should have been warnings. Like sometimes I give warnings and people don't take me seriously because I never raise my voice. I'm just not a yeller. But I will say, so this is why I have to be very explicit in my language. And I don't mean profanity. I mean detailed. So I'm going to say, hey, here are the 3 things that you have going on that are not meeting your criteria. Do we agree that these are things that we'll be working on? Okay, but they're not happening. And I'm going to have to let you know if this continues to be the case, I will have to let you go. So there is no one that I fired that hasn't been like, yeah, she gave me warning. No one. If you're out there, you're lying. There's none. Right? So you want to make sure you have HR as a witness. You want to make sure that you're honest. You want to meet face to face. Please do not fire someone by email. That's why they want to burn your building down. It's not a text. Even if it's someone who is remote, if you can get them in the office, get them in the office. If not, then remote, let it at least be face to face. Okay? Keep it clear, short, and professional. All right? Don't let it drone on forever and ever. Don't make it personal attacks. Tell them exactly why it is that they're being released. All right? Before they leave, allow them to pick up their items. Leave them with a little dignity and self-respect. Use a termination checklist, which I mentioned before. That way, even while you're in the meeting, someone else can be taking care of those things which are security risks, right? You'll make sure all security risks are settled. You don't want to have any issues just because they're gone. Be sure to tell the team the news. So the moment that they've gotten their items, you send out an email. You have an emergency meeting with your team and bring them in. Already have it scheduled. You know when you're going to fire them. It's even an easier way for them to be able to get their stuff. If you know you're firing them at 12, you're going to have a meeting at 2 or 1. Tell them all to be in the conference room. You let them go. They can go get their stuff. You can go to the conference room and tell everybody all about it. Done, right? And then you make sure that you prepare for the future. Learn from the experiences that you had with this employee. What could you have done better? What was missing with regards to communication, with regard to them understanding, even with regard to them being hired? Did they not meet the criteria? Should you have done more personality assessments? Should you have learned more about time management? Whatever it is, figure all that out so that in the future, you can have a much better experience and you won't have to be like Arthur Grant and have potentially, per them, an employee out there who's trying to badmouth the company. All right? Okay, so hopefully you've learned a lot from today's session, and we'll be back again on the next episode of WorkHARDaholics. And as we always say, live better, do better, be better, and happy entrepreneuring. Ta-ta.
Like, share, subscribe, repeat. Like, share, subscribe, repeat. 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 Thanks for tuning in to WorkHARDaholics. Support our show by following on YouTube and all major social media platforms at WorkHARDaholic. Until next week, happy entrepreneuring.